She wanted the same job. She believed it should have been hers. Backstabbing, undermining, working behind the scenes to take me down.
Really starting it from scratch, building it to 30 million in revenue. And so Friday morning, I was a sales rep. Monday morning, I was president. My wife asked a friend a question one time at a really poignant moment, and she said, "What if it's not about you?"
I was the information desk at Colorado State. Literally, students, parents, faculty, they'd walk up, ask a question, and I'd have the answer. The human version of Google. Before Al Gore invented the internet, I knew that job cold. And it was my senior year. I interviewed for the manager role at the same desk. And guess what? I got it. A business management major, 3 years of leadership theory. How hard could it be? Well, Monday morning, new boss, managing the same people I'd just been working alongside. And within weeks, I realized something terrifying. I had no idea what my job was anymore. Now, if you've ever been promoted and thought, I used to be good at this, stay with me. I spent 30 years in corporate leadership making every mistake in the book, some of them twice. I'm Preston Poore, and if you're a leader who's ever felt in over your head but too proud to say it, you're in the right place. This is PQ. Welcome. Episode 2, Doing versus Leading. You won the job by being the best at doing it. Now the job is getting other people to do it, and nobody trained you for that. 60% of new managers fail within their first 2 years. And the average age for the first management role, 30. Average age for the first leadership training, 40. That's a 10-year gap. And Gallup says 70% of team engagement depends on the manager. We promote our best doers and then wonder why they struggle as leaders. The problem isn't the people. It's the assumption that doing and leading are the same job, and they're not. That's a heavy stat. 10 years between getting the job and getting the training. But guess who lived inside that gap? This guy. Looking back, I exercised some poor judgment. And before I tell you the rest of the story, I was the information desk, literally had all the answers. Then I became the manager who suddenly couldn't answer the only question that mattered. What am I supposed to do now? I was a senior studying business management. I thought I knew how to lead a team. Turns out Chapter 7 doesn't cover your assistant manager is trying to get you fired. Nobody tells you that getting promoted means trading a job that you're good for one you've never done. It's like winning a cooking competition and the prize is, hey, now you're a plumber. And the worst part of becoming a manager isn't the responsibility. It's the moment you realize your entire skill set just became irrelevant. And your calendar is full of proof. That was funny now, but it wasn't funny then. You heard the cold open. Same desks, same people. Let me take you back to what actually happened. Because the story I just teased about the assistant manager, that part was real. Top performer, best at the desk. Got promoted to run it. Managing peers, people I've been working alongside the week before. No coaching, no playbook, no transition plan. I thought that the promotion was the prize, but the promotion was the test. Well, in comes the assistant manager. She wanted the same job. She believed it should have been hers. Backstabbing, undermining, working behind the scenes to take me down. Then it escalated. A false accusation of sexual harassment. I was 21 years old, fighting for my job and fighting for my name. I didn't have a mentor, no HR coach, no senior leader pulling me aside. Just me, a new title, and a problem nobody had prepared me for. I was trying to manage the desk and survive at the same time, and I was falling and failing at both. Being great at doing the work and being great at leading people who do the work, two completely different skill sets. And nobody told me that. I thought I'd been promoted into a bigger version of my old job. I'd actually been handed an entirely new one. And the lesson? I didn't lead well. I didn't manage well. The hardest part wasn't the conflict, it wasn't the accusation. It was realizing that the job I thought I earned wasn't the job I was actually in. Most leaders I know go to church on Sunday and show up on Monday like they've never heard a word of it. I was one of them. The Discipled Leader Apprenticeship exists to close that gap. One-on-one discipleship that shapes how you actually lead, not just what you believe. If you're tired of living two separate lives, visit PrestonPoor.com. All right. Hey, Josh. Hope you're doing well. Looking forward to this conversation for a long, long time. Josh Block is in the house and is going to share some great wisdom with us. Hey, Josh, before we get started today, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in Lansing, Michigan, and I've had the privilege of leading a second-generation family business in the radiology and imaging space for the last 20 years, and then launched People Matter at Work, a story, or really a book, to share our story, mistakes made, lessons learned, principles carried, in pursuit of creating a culture where people thrive.
Love that. That's so good. And your story, from what I know, when I met you at NCS and listened to it, your story is a textbook version of today's tension, from what I get. Uh, Individual contributor in sales to top producer, and then almost overnight, I use that phrase. I know there's a little bit more time, but almost overnight running the company. Tell me about that transition.
Yeah, so Friday I was a sales rep, and we had a family situation that led to my dad sitting down with three brothers and myself and saying that he would be stepping down from his role as president after leading the organization for 15 years, really starting it from scratch, building it to 30 million in revenue. And so Friday morning I was a sales rep, Monday morning I was president, made an announcement. Was 29 years old at the time, about 50 people in the organization, and we were off and running.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, in that transition, I imagine there was a point when you realized that things that made you great in the individual contributor role, that sales role that you were in, were not the things that would make you great as the leader of the entire business. Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
I mean, there were a few qualities, like if you were to look on one side, that ability to communicate, understanding products and customers and pricing and some of the things that drive the business, those were important and valuable. But if I were to look at the other side of the scale, from HR to leadership to oversight, even like a profit and loss statement or our Japan office, there was so much that I didn't know. And so, yeah, it was a pretty unbelievable stretch in those early days.
Do you have like a tipping point in all of that that you can recall, a specific story where you're kind of like, oh, I'm kind of in over my head and maybe not sure that I have what it takes at this point?
Yeah, I'm sure there were lots of those moments. About 4 months before I became president, the company had gone through a layoff. So 8 or 10% of the people were let go to try to get performance back on track. And so, while it was before I became president, it was such a meaningful moment to watch, such a learning experience to see the stability and the security that was just in one moment, that the entire culture, the entire organization changed, both not only for those who were departing, but to those who were staying behind. And so that really, again, while it was before I became president, it was a priceless lesson.
And what was that lesson?
That that the security that's provided in work is so deep, and that when you make a haphazard decision, the cost that comes with that, and so there are sometimes right decisions done in wrong ways. And it was a moment that we had been a certain type of company, and when you make a decision that's diametrically opposed to who you really are, who you want to be, it breaks trust in a huge way. And so it was just a moment where it was like our values and our actions didn't align, and it came at a real cost.
Yeah. So, what did you, as you learned that, how did you carry that forward into your leadership in your new role? Because you had that happen 4 months before and then boom. Was there anything, a mindset shift that happened in you that said, how do we lay off? Sometimes letting people go is part of business. I get that. But is there something you gleaned from that and said, I'd need to do something differently moving forward?
I think that my awareness of people's fear is that, and I'm not looking to separate myself from that, but fear is not something that's prevalent in my life, or at least it's not on the surface in a big way. And I was president of the organization. So you can
Yeah.
fear certain things, but at the end of the day, I wasn't really afraid of my own security or my own role. And so I think just being aware of that there are people, many people, who are afraid of more and different things than I am afraid of. And so just being aware of that allows us to, like, for instance, I like adventure. I like risk taking. If you told me we were getting on an airplane and you were going to tell me where we were going until we landed, that would be exciting to me. But that's not normal. Like, most
Yeah.
people don't like that sort of thing. My wife, it's taken me 25 years to learn that she doesn't really like surprises. And so just this awareness of, like, people, even you, the person who's in control loves surprise birthday parties. They love surprise trips,
Yeah,
but the person
sure.
who's not. And so I think just that awareness of, like, surprising people is not, it's fun for a 5-year-old birthday party. It's not fun for a 40-year-old in their career. And so the more that we can kind of avoid surprise and bring stability, I think the better off we are.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, Josh, for bringing that forward. I think that's being empathetic, right? And learning that as
Sure.
a leader, that those that are going through the change all react in a different way and they move through the change curve differently at a different
Mhm.
pace. And so you can carry that as a leader and understanding they have to figure out how to bring the whole organization along. And then if people are in different places, how do you work with them to help buy into the vision about where you're going on it? And they move in the curve with you eventually, hopefully, right? On that. So you've built this whole framework around this idea of from me to we, from isolation to ownership, from pressure to possibility, from survival to strength. What was the me version of you trying to protect when you first stepped into leadership?
Yeah, of course I was focused on survival. Like, we weren't really focused on thriving at that moment. We were just working on some level of success that would allow us to sustain long enough to decide where we were going to go as a business. But yeah, I think for me, I grew up in a home where work was a good thing. Work was positive. We fought over the lawnmower. And then when I got into my 20s, went out into the workplace and I heard, like, work sucks. I mean, people use work as, like, this dun dun dun, and working for the weekend in case of the Mondays. And so that really is what led me to try to reverse engineer, why is work the way it is? Why do people view it the way they do? Why is it such a miserable experience? So that really is where the me cycle came from.
Yeah. And then when did we, that word we, it says from me to we, when did that start to break through?
So I think I always desired to lead through the lens of we, that it's not, my wife asked a friend a question one time at a really poignant moment, and she said, "What if it's not about you?" And she did it in, like, it sounds like this, such a jerk phrase, but she did it in, like, such a kind way. Is what if it's not about you? Is a question that comes to my mind often. But this idea of we, and when I started leading in 2011, there was this question of what if we could create a place where people love to work and they thrive in their work, not because it's easy, but because they're stretched and become someone they never dreamed of becoming. And so we sought to be the answer to that question without the three T's, without the we cycle and play. And I'm thankful that just the wink of it being three T's rather than an S, a W, and a K or something like that. And so these three T's started to show me, like, hey, this is what you have sought to become. This is what you've sought to embody. And now we can actually invite others in. And I think that's one of the challenges leaders face is they think it's magic. Is they just, if they're terrible at it, they're, of course, that's the issue. But if they're really good at it, they think, like, they're this celebrity. They have this special gift. And so I was trying to reverse engineer, well, leadership can't be entirely systematized. There are some T's that led us to explore and then multiply. How do we create a place where people love to work?
All right, enough teasing. What are the T's? You said
Yeah.
three T's.
Yeah. So when I started, the first T's together, when I
Okay.
started, there was so much I didn't know. There was this reliance on other people, and what would you do if you were in my shoes? And what are you thinking about this issue, given what you talked about at the beginning, is that there's so much I didn't know.
Mhm.
And rather than falling into this inferiority complex, there was this idea of like, I'm going to tap into the knowledge they have because I can't know it all. I don't want to know it all. So together, and then after together, there was this word thoughtful. And it was this idea that I didn't look up the definition for a lot of years, but it made a lot of sense once I came across it, is careful consideration for the needs of others. So
Mhm.
we're working together to make thoughtful decisions. And then finally, we're transparent about those decisions. We're clear. We're easy to understand. We don't have a bunch tucked behind a veil. And so, again, working together to make thoughtful decisions and then be transparent in every way that we can.
I love that. It's funny. I go back to this we me thing. I just always heard that there's no I in team,
Sure.
and I always shoot back that there is a me, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at that and have a little fun with that, but that's the one thing. But team is so important the way you approach it. And the other thing I want to lead to this next question, but what I sense underneath all of this that you're doing is this biblical concept of imago Dei, and that's being made in the image of God. And if you respect somebody and give them dignity, appreciate them, give them not only work but challenging and good work where they can collaborate and be in a work environment where they can thrive, that's what we're to do as leaders and help them do that. But in the midst of all that, what role does faith play in your leadership?
Yeah, faith is the foundation of my leadership. And in the early days, our organization was very overt. The mission statement was extremely spiritual in nature. And so we made a shift when I became president shortly after that for our mission to be people matter. And it's this idea, like even the sense of preach the gospel wherever you go and when necessary use words, is I really believe, at least my own calling and my own faith journey, is through embodiment, through incarnation, and this
Mhm.
idea of like loving people in relationship and answering questions when asked. And so if the guy who's in downtown Nashville who's yelling from a microphone with a big sign that says hell is real, I would be accused of being on the other side of that, is like
Mhm.
loving, serving, caring, investing. And then my hope is that it would it would either lead to natural conversations, or even one of my more favorite things would be that they would just know. They would
Yeah.
just know.
Oh, so good. One of the concepts I used and have learned from Young Life is earn the right. And I think in the workplace, if you're caring for people, they trust you and you're helping them along in their career and you're doing it a certain way. When I do podcasts and they ask me about my life at Coke or Hershey or whatever, I tell them I didn't give a 30-second witnessing testimony up the elevator right away, like it hit somebody one on one. I didn't hit people over the heads with the Bible or start conference calls or meetings with prayer because I couldn't. I was in a very secular organization, but it ended up being the way I treated people. And sometimes that led to the conversation. Hey, what's different about you? And you need to be ready to share that. So that's good. As we conclude our interview, there's a couple of the questions I wanted. There's something I watched in this video that you have out there that really stopped me. And it said, basically, we're in the people business that happens to provide imaging equipment.
You did.
That's a reframe. That's not a tagline. And that seems to me to be a leadership posture. How'd you get your team and yourself to actually believe it and not just say it?
Yeah, I don't think I did a lot of work to believe it. I think my mom was someone who lived it out in my life since I was very young. And so I got to watch that on display. But if you believe, use the Imago Dei, this idea of like, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about others? And this idea that people are a gift, even the ones that drive you crazy, even the ones that, you feel like are lazy, they're a gift. And so once we stop and we recognize like that people are a gift, it changes everything. And I'm thankful we're in the healthcare space because of the way that healthcare supports people. But I'm really most passionate about creating an environment where people thrive, and then they bring their best, and then they serve in whatever space that they're in. And so, yeah, care for people has just really been deep in both my bones and in my theology since I was a young man.
That's awesome. That's good. What got me so excited when I listened to you at the NCS conference, I guess it was about a year and a half ago in Orlando, was this, I felt like we had a similar heartbeat for culture and for employee engagement. And those are the business management terms, right, for what we're talking about and creating that. But it makes a huge difference. I tell people all the time, as a matter of fact, when I wrote my book, How is Greater Than What, the guy that was coaching me through it, Mike Loomis, he pushed me on my last chapter. He said, why are you ending with culture? Because I put that as the last thing on the how, is what leaders do. And I said, look, one of the greatest things that a leader should do is leave and create a wonderful culture where their people thrive. And something clicked for him. He said, wow, that does make a difference. More so than anything that they do, more so than driving the revenue, the products they produce. If you can produce a culture and drive employee engagement where people want to be at your place and it's a competitive advantage, that's the best thing you can do. Yeah, I'll get off the soapbox. Sorry about that. That just gave me an opportunity to do that. Thanks, Josh. Hey, last question. Then I'm going to ask you really if there's anything else that we missed today that you wanted to share with the audience. I'm thinking about the millennial leader who is in and listening to this today, right now. They've been promoted from doer to leader. Not unlike me being at the information desk and being moved into that people. I had 20 people overnight, and I had no clue how to do it. You move from an individual contributor to president of a large organization, a multi-million-dollar organization, and the circumstances. If they're sitting there, moving from that doer to leader, and they're in a state of confusion, wondering what if they actually have what it takes, what's the first shift you think that they need to make?
There's a TED Talk on YouTube that's by Benjamin Zander, and it's called The Transformative Power of Classical Music. And he talks about this idea that the conductor is the leader, they don't make a sound. And so that image of this idea that their job is to awaken possibility in others and to bring power in the players. And so I think that where that most leaders are like, but I was first chair in the trumpet, or I know how to play the bassoon, is when you're able to actually shift, you're facing a different direction. You were sitting in the orchestra, and now you're a conductor whose job is you are empowered to empower others. That, I think, is that TED Talk, which is 18 minutes long, I think does as about as good a job of explaining that shift you're talking about as I ever could.
That's fantastic. And we'll get my producers behind the screen there that maybe we can find that link and add it into the show notes as we go along. So thank you for mentioning that. It'd be a great resource for people to see. Great analogy. Josh, you put a lot of work into your book, People Matter at Work. Tell folks where they can find it and maybe where they can connect with you.
Yeah. People Matter at Work is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, anywhere books are sold. And if you'd like to reach out, you can either visit the website, peoplematteratwork.com, or josh@peoplematteratwork.com. I'd love to connect with you and encourage you in any way that I can along your leadership journey.
All right, Josh, this has been a rich conversation. Thanks for taking time with us today and sharing your stories. You moved from individual contributor where you were doing the work into a leader and working with and through others to accomplish your goals. That's great. Thank you. But here's what keeps coming back to me. What you just described, the shift from me to we, that's not a leadership trick. That's a heart change. You can read every management book ever written and still try to do the job alone. Because the real shift isn't your strategy. It's in your willingness to let someone else carry it with you. And the oldest leader in Scripture to learn that lesson, well, his name was Moses. So think about Moses leading a nation out of slavery. He was the best at the job by a mile, judging every dispute, answering every question, solving every problem for the entire nation. He was the information desk. Jethro, his father-in-law, watches him for one day, and he sees what nobody else has the standing to say. He delivers the oldest doing to leading intervention in Scripture. Exodus 18, verse 17 says, "What you're doing is not good. You and these people will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone." You know, Jethro doesn't tell Moses he's failing. He tells him he's doing the wrong job. The coaching? Delegate, empower, trust others. Focus on what only you can do. Moses had been measuring himself by the volume of work he could carry and do. Jethro reframed it. Leadership isn't what you carry, it's what you build. Now, nobody pulled me aside at CSU and said, the job changed and you need to change with it. Moses got a Jethro. Most new managers don't. So here's the invitation. Who's your Jethro? And if you don't have one, start looking. So let's land this. You've heard my story. You've heard Josh's story. If you're sitting in this tension right now, promoted out of a job you were good at into one that you're still figuring out, here's what I tell you. 3 things I wish someone had told me. 3 things that would have saved me a lot of heartburn at that desk. The job you got promoted into is not an upgrade of the old one. It's a different job entirely. Stop measuring yourself by what you used to produce. Your value now is what you multiply through others. The scoreboard changed the day you got the title. You just didn't get the new rule book. Number 2, you're not supposed to have all the answers anymore. You went from being the information desk to building the team that runs it. That requires asking better questions, not giving faster answers. The leaders I respect the most aren't really the smartest ones in the room. They're the ones who make everyone else in the room smarter. Number 3, find your Jethro. Nobody figures this out on their own. Show me your mentors, and I'll show you your future. If you don't have someone speaking truth into your leadership right now, that's not humility. That's a blind spot. Go find them this week. So I close with this. Knowing your job used to be simple. Now it's not. And that's not a problem. That's the promotion actually working. So you survived the shock. You're figuring out what the new job is. Here's what nobody warns you about. The more you figure it out, the more you realize you're struggling, and you can't let anyone see it. Next time on P Cubed, the tension between the image you project and the truth you carry. See you there. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for spending part of your day with me, and I know your time is valuable and your to-do list is long. If this was helpful, share it with someone else who needs it. Like it, comment, leave a review. It helps more people find the show, and quite honestly, it makes me feel like I'm not just talking to myself in here. And if today's tension hit home, maybe a little too close to home, and if you're tired of being one person on Sunday and someone else on Monday, check out the Disciple Leader Apprenticeship at PrestonPoor.com. 10 weeks, 1 hour a week, one conversation at a time. No slides, no lectures, just real talk. And find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Peace out, be a rock star.